Welcome to the JP Podcast. I'm your host, John.
I'm your co-host, Tom.
And today we brought back Erik Seidel from the last video, and he did the comics and the superheroes. But we were talking afterwards, and I mentioned, oh, so you do follow aliens and everything like that? And he said, yeah, I'm pretty, knowledgeable in that area, which I'm not. I don't know about you, Tom.
Yeah, once again, these first few episodes, I feel kind of like the dumb one out of the group. I don't know much about the aliens, and not that I don't know much. It's just, I have opinions, but I don't have any. This isn't something I investigated or researched or anything for sure.
Yeah. Now, if there's a program, I watch Nova a lot, and if they're talking about the planets, the solar system, and everything like that, I do watch it. I do love that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to aliens and conspiracies, I do not follow it at all. So I asked Erik if what's the format going to be on this, and basically we're just going to let Erik talk like we did on the last one, and he'll ask us some questions. A lot of it's going to be just opinionated stuff that we have about it, and what little bit we have been following, because it's been on TV lately, ancient aliens and conspiracies and all that. So I've been trying to watch it, but I have a rough time. I have a rough time getting through it. But
and I've been able to over the years be able to catch documentaries or the little episodes of some things on the History Channel, or even went down a couple rabbit holes in YouTube with a couple books outside, So I might have a few things for him, but it's also going to be very raw because we didn't plan this ahead of time. This isn't something like we got to research or do a lot of work on, and this is just kind of a put together episode, so they'll be able to see, some true opinions. I don't have any research with me, so.
Yeah, and if you guys notice, we've been playing around with backgrounds. I'm learning as we're going along, so you can see a couple new things that I've learned, as far as editing for the program and everything like that. So it's going to be fun for me. But let me bring up Erik right now. Well, welcome to the show, Erik. Glad to have you back. Once again, it's Erik Seidel from the last episode we had, which was the comic books and superheroes and everything like that. I had told Tom that we talked about, or you and I had talked about, you do the alien stuff and everything like that. So I said, okay, let's do another show. And here you are. Welcome. And pretty much going to wing this one because neither Tom nor I follow it to that degree. How you been doing?
Good.
All right. And like you said, we don't know much, so we're gonna give you the reins and let you kind of take over. Tell us how you feel. I mean, we're gonna get started. We've introduced you once with the comic book episode or the comic episode, Marvel DC episode. So if you want to jump right into it, any questions that you have for us? I mean, because we don't even know where to start as far as this topic goes.
So what do you guys think? Real? Not real?
Well, I'm a very basic person as far as that goes. I believe that we can't be the only intelligent living species amongst all the galaxies that are out there that are proven. But I physically haven't seen anything that's been like, yep, that's for sure what they look like and that's what they are. So I don't disbelieve, nor do I believe. I'm kind of in that middle area.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same way. It's too big out there to say that there isn't any life out there, but intelligent life, I don't know if I believe in aliens coming to Earth and not making contact with us. Why make a trip all that way to come here and hide? You know, who says they're thinking like us? Like, oh, we don't want to, we don't want to mess up what they got going on, or we got to wait for their technology. I would think if you were to travel that far and that long to get somewhere, that you would want to make contact. I look at it like within our own solar system. If we were to go to one of the moons on Saturn and find life, I'm pretty sure we would try to make contact if it was somewhat intelligent life. So I don't see why it wouldn't happen to us.
Well, I mean, that's just it. Like, judging what does intelligent life mean, because a giant doesn't worry about what ants are doing, because so it could be the same thing. I kind of followed it, watching go down the rabbit hole. You start watching Ancient Aliens, or you watch YouTube videos, and then the next leads to the next, and I just kind of look at it like, I think there's something there. I think that our government knows now. I mean, people say, well, people come forward and they say, I this or I that, and you never know what their agenda is. They could be trying to get rich, but it's the cases that hit kind of like strange. So like the very first case of alien abduction, it was a man and his wife were driving home, and their name was Barney and Betty Hill, and they were an interracial couple. They're in the 40s. I don't think that they would want to draw all that attention on themselves by saying that this, we've been abducted. And, what they said is, that these aliens told them they're from here. And so it's like, but then if you look all the way back through history, every civilization says that, except ours, says that, we came from here, or, we were taught by these gods or whatnot. And every continent, every civilization has one, and so it's like, I think right now, where we don't really know, and we take some aspects of history and totally ignore the others. So it's like, people think that, the Bible that's what it is because it was written, and that's the knowledge that we're going to go for, but nobody really knows. So it's kind of hard to talk about most time, because most of the time you talk about it, people either they're like on the fence, or they're like, you're crazy. It's like, yeah, there's nothing here. And I'm like, well, then explain this or explain that. And, how did the Egyptians, how did they know how to build these massive monuments before they weren't, so there's.
And to follow that up, not only that, so that's one of the avenues I go down. You have the missing link avenue where aliens come in. So that's the missing link is when aliens come down and, do whatever it is that they did to move along the evolutionary period of humans. The other avenue is how they built all the pyramids, and the fact that, building them is one thing. We all work around, us three especially, we've all worked around heavy equipment. These things that they were moving were definitely massive, heavy equipment needing to move them. So that is definitely strange. But the thing I find more strange is they line up directly on to face the northern star during these times. What is that? In the solar system, they're
the summer and winter solstice.
Yeah, and where they're placed at is such a high degree. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't smart enough people to figure that out, but to figure it out at that degree, at that time, I mean, that was before. Not only building it that blows my mind, but where they built it at is what also blows my mind. So that's the avenue I kind of went down a little bit more, was maybe not the missing link avenue, but what happened with the pyramids, what happened in Egypt, why is that? Why does every Egypt wall have spacecrafts? Like if you look on them, they actually have spacecrafts on them. So that's the little bit I do know about that. It is some weird things that happen out there.
Yeah, see, I think that if they have come to Earth, I believe maybe they came at a time before, humans were even on Earth. So, they might have shown up and it was all dinosaurs, and they said, look, it's not it's life, but it's not intelligent life. So let's get out of here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they left. But I've actually watched a program on Nova about the pyramids from the guy was an engineer, and he explained a lot on there. And I kept the recording for a long time because I would rewatch it once in a while. But he was explaining things on how they did it as far from an engineering point of view. So that kind of took it. I used to think the same thing, like how did they build all that and what, but he showed and he said, here's where everything was at. Here's the marks in the stone where they had something here. This is how they were lifting things. They weren't using the built up dirt ramp and pulling things up like we thought, because it would have had to been too big. But
and another thing that on that avenue, sorry to cut you off, John, I didn't mean, is, that's why I said it, to me, it almost narrowed down to where they were built, not how they were built. Because even at where they're at, it would flood quite often. And they described how they could even float the stones down using the flooding and all that stuff. But the astronomy part of it is what always got me. Like, how are these things facing in such important directions and not lined up like they're lined up to the 0 degree? Like they are lined up to a T with certain stars at certain moments. And so that's the part that got me. That it would take, to figure that part out to me would be almost impossible.
Yeah. So it's like Samaria is like the oldest known civilization, and they have the belief that they were created by the Anunnaki. Alien race came here to mine gold. Then they got lazy, didn't want to do it themselves, so they looked and saw other animals here and spliced our DNA, and that's how we came. And they have like a long list of kings, and the reign of these kings were tens of thousands of years. And modern science as well, people weren't living that long. But if you even go into the Bible, all the people that were living for a long time, Methuselah and all that, the length of which people lived changed dramatically after the flood. So like I said, we were talking about before, every existence or civilization has a flood theory. So why? Is it all made up? Is it, so it's like, you got to kind of judge for yourself. We're never going to, unless somebody says, hey, this is it, no one's going to fully believe unless it lands, they put it on TV, and, they have a press conference.
Yeah, it would have to be, it wouldn't even just be on TV. I don't believe is good enough for a lot of people anymore, as far as just the way the world is now. No one, and I don't believe, but it's true, and I'm that way to a fault, where if I don't see it with my own eyes physically, if I'm not there, then I can't say I believe or disbelieve. It's just I haven't seen one, so I can't say. You can show me one on TV, but I can show you a lot of things on TV that aren't real.
Yeah, and that's a long time for me to say, okay, so they were here when the Egyptians were building the pyramids. But yet, for so many years after that, humans still thought the Earth was flat. People still today think the Earth is flat. So I don't know. I'm open-minded. Don't get me wrong. I personally don't feel that maybe that's not what it was, because what are the chances of them being here and we still, okay, so technology has moved along, but not to the point of where I feel like maybe the medical stuff should be at that point too. Like we see on movies, and I know it's all science fiction, but there's still a lot of things we can't cure, a lot of things about the human body we can't fix. And would a supreme being or race come into this planet, I think they would bring more to this planet and more to us as far as their advancement than just knowing how to fly at a faster speed.
So
I'm going to have to hold it right there.
Yep.
And call you guys right back. So we got.
Deal. I'm gonna save this question.
Because you got 10 minutes.
I have a good thing for you.
Yeah, I got 10 minutes, but let me fix this. Okay, we got 10 minutes. So go ahead.
All right. So wait. All right. So on that point, my thing with that though is, you look at the evolution of medicine and science and technology over the last 150 years. It's 1000% more than it was the first 3,000 years before that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I agree.
the fact that it's not that we're not where we are. Look at the speed at which we're going at this point. At this point, we went from flip phones to smartphones in a couple decades. That technology would have taken us hundreds of years to develop that. So I don't necessarily look at our technology and say, oh, if they were here, we'd have more yet. We're moving really fast at a rapid pace. And I'm not saying that it's true either, that aliens are behind it. I'm just saying the fact that technology, I throw that kind of out the window because we've developed it faster than anything else over the last thousands of years. Humans develop technology at an insane pace. So that one's a rough one for me.
Yeah, but I also believe in people looking more towards science as opposed to a religious side of it. You know what I mean? So getting more into science and learning that and seeing that is the actual, I don't want to say truth, but the truth of things, as opposed to saying, oh, well, this person's sick because they got a spell from a witch, so that's where like I said, I'm open-minded. Yeah. I'm just not 100 fully convinced, because for me, for aliens to come all this way, finally get here, and our government is the one that's able to, you know what I mean, put that in it, only use it for warfare. I don't know. I don't see the reason why people couldn't know,
So like to talk about like the technology advancement and all that. So let's go back to Roswell, New Mexico. So there, an alien, the theory is alien ship crash landed and we recovered bodies and so, but what you got to kind of dig deeper is what brought them here. Really before the 40s, I mean, we were pretty much low on the technology range. And what happened in the 40s that boosted everything, the testing of the atomic bomb. So when they did the atomic bomb, where they did the testing is not too far from Roswell, New Mexico. So it's like, I think that when we tested, we split the atom and we showed that there is, we could potentially destroy this planet. I think maybe that's kind of put us on someone's radar. Now, after Roswell, there's somebody that worked within the government. I think his name is J. Allen Hynek. He claims that he was responsible for taking the alien technology and putting it into the hands of companies that could do something with it. So like fiber optic cables, night vision, they say came from that. And so look at from after the atomic bomb, we went from the 20 years to landing on the moon. And that's something that some people believe or don't believe. And so there's just too much technology and the way that we are advancing. And to go back to what you said about medicine, Magic Johnson got the cure for AIDS. So there is, big money in not curing diseases, but treating diseases. And that's where we are in the US, like all these other countries that have free medical and all that. There's too much money in treating people to where, like I'm diabetic. To get 5 pens, it's like almost $600 for insulin. And that lasts like maybe 2 months. So, I mean, there's money to be made. So that's why we're not, but then look at on the military side, there's so much that the military, so far ahead that the military is from us, that that's where all the technology is going to. I think that right now with all the Freedom of Information Acts, and so like what they say the government does now is they are having private companies do the research and all that, because the private company is not subjected to a Freedom of Information Act. Skunk Works and all that. These people are doing working on advancements, and we don't know about it. We wouldn't know about it. And whenever a whistleblower comes out, they're quickly scrutinized and called liar. They say, oh, well, that's not true. This person's crazy. In the 80s, a whistleblower came out, and his name was Bob Lazar.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about, was him.
He had he was known around California for putting rockets on cars because he wanted to go fast. And
he actually did. So on the side track, we do have a drag car, and he was a drag racer with a jet engine on the back of his rail. And so I knew about him literally from the late 80s. But then when they'd had that documentary on him, and I got to see that, it was a very interesting thing. And for those who don't know, he was a guy who worked at NASA, and he was the one that decided to blow the whistle first in the 80s.
Yeah, he came out about Area 51, and he came out about how we've discovered a new element, and it's called onum-pentium or something like that. And at the time, everybody was like, "Oh, that's not true," but if you look now, there is that element. So,
and he was able to describe. So there's some parts that are interesting, and some parts that are depending on which way you look at it. The first part being he was able to describe a lot of Area 51 later on. So everything he was describing, they later on were able to find true, even though no one believed him at the time. But some of the other things is he did mention how he was able to see like maybe something in a room one day walking by. He has recently come out saying, it could have been anything. He doesn't know what it was. He can't, it shouldn't have been taken that it was for sure what they call grays. And the one thing I did like about it that's interesting is even after all the publicity, and even, just probably within the last decade, he's mentioned how it's actually been harder now to live than it was before. He didn't get any fame or, riches out of the deal. He actually has been harassed more than ever. So he's not.
All right. So go back to, we were talking about Bob Lazar, and he was a scientist. Like the government wouldn't even acknowledge that he ever worked for him. He had pay stubs and all this. So it's like the government will definitely beat you down because they're the government. So you got to kind of look at,
Well, he also didn't help himself by tampering with some illegal activities after the fact too. So he kind of gave him, he hindered himself, but the greatest thing he ever said was, how did he become, how did he get all this stuff? How did they took all his college, credits away or whatever. Then how did he make it where he was? They just let some high school dropout walk into NASA.
Yeah.
What is that?
I do got a question, and now that you've been talking about him, I do remember hearing the story, but are they saying that the U.S. is the only government that has this technology, that we're the only ones that have this thing with aliens as far as Area 51? Because I had heard I was following another lady, and I tried to get her name, but I saw her on Joe Rogan, and she was talking about Operation Paperclip, which was after World War II, how the different countries were, fighting to get the scientists from Germany. And I had heard a lot of it was stuff that maybe either we were doing scientifically or even the Russians, that can account for that being an alien-like creature. I don't want to say it because I don't remember exactly how it was.
So there's been a crash in Germany. There's been reported crashes in Russia. So even when Operation Paperclip was happening and the U.S. was grabbing all of these scientists, and NASA was basically all Nazi scientists, and every one of them said that they had help, meaning, they had plans and to go to the moon and, just crazy stuff. But then when you see it on paper, they had created a machine that it was called die Glocke, which in Germany means the bell. And it was like an acorn looking bell. And it was supposed to have, anti-gravity technology. And it disappeared after kind of threw me for a loop. I thought it was a seizure or something. But
That's part of the new technology.
Yeah, so they were like, well, we had help, and you kind of look at what do they mean. So this device, so the main one is Werner von Braun. He was the poster boy of the, he was responsible for the V-12 rocket that was, destroying Europe. And
I brought it up real quick, not to cut you off, but her name was Annie Jacobson. So I actually listened to, I got it an audio book, and I listened to this book. But so I mean, not saying that I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I do know what you're talking about, because I did follow a little bit of it.
Well, it just goes to show you the lengths in which a government would go to get an advantage over everyone else.
Yeah, but we're talking World War II. A lot of technology period advances, and you can see it through any major war. Excuse me. We do advance more technology-wise when it comes to warfare. So you see it in the Revolutionary War, you see it in the Civil War, you see it in World War I. So that part to me is just something that debunks it a little bit. But the Operation Paperclip, as bad as it was, I kind of get it, because it was better for us to have them than the Russians to have them at the time, because you didn't want them having all those good scientists from Germany, and Germany was loaded with them. It was bad. It was bad. We had to. It's bad because you think about these guys that committed war crimes were given safe havens here in the U.S. And I do understand that part of the government. Not saying it's good, but I understand that. You know what I mean? So that's why I tend to say, I don't know. You know what I mean? No matter what they put out there, NASA, or if somebody tells me that, I'm just like, I don't know. Because I follow Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he hasn't said anything yet. And if it's anybody that would say something, it would be him. Because what would he lose out? But I'm not saying someplace, somebody's got a piece of spacecraft that crashed. I want to see a clear. I got to see it. There's no doubt. I don't want to see a plane chasing an aircraft and the aircraft disappears and it's kind of a pixelated picture. No, we have good technology. We could, you know what I mean? Look what I did on my background. So I could see. I want to see it. That's what I'm trying to say.
And there's one thing that's kind of why I said it kind of sucks that video nowadays isn't good enough. Not that that's an odd statement to make, but it's kind of true. We have satellites that can zoom in into a person's and count the change on their hand, but we don't have a satellite that can catch these saucers flying around. Now, whether they're catching them and getting deleted before they get released to the public or whatever, but there's that possibility. But I just find it hard that nothing would have leaked then. And then at that point, even then though, even if they're leaking real photos, it'd be hard for most people to believe it. So now would be the time to leak anything, because even a guy like me, I would be like, oh, well, that could be CGI, or that's just how it is now.
So funny you say that. So there is a documentary. It's of an alien autopsy, where they show a doctor in the 40s dissecting an alien. So in that documentary, they took that to, I don't know if it was Jim Henson's group, but they were special effects masters, and they're like, well, we could barely do this now. So how could they do it in the 40s? And, to such a degree where they had the different membranes where they're dissecting the eye and things like that. So it's like, what a lot of people believe is that, countries, the world power, are in some kind of secret alliance with certain aliens, and they hide stuff because they don't want people going, asking them what's going on. So it's like, okay, but why? Well, maybe, people are getting abducted and experimented on, and, in their mind, it 100% happened. But
so do you believe that? Like, this is just something I've always been curious. Do you believe like abductions happen with aliens and they're probing it? Not necessarily probing. That's the joke. That's the joke behind the alien abduction. But do you think they're testing and researching us then? If they were, or why would they if they created us or whatever? Or it was just it's like a weird loop that just.
If we went to Mars and found lower life forms, would we experiment on them?
Yeah. But I'm saying if we, so the missing link origin, or the gold theory, where they came down there harvesting gold, and our hearts are like 1/60th gold or whatever it's considered, so that's why they feel like they were part of making us. And if that's the case, then why would they need to study us? They already know. They made us. They did it.
Maybe it's the ones that didn't come here. I mean, so like there's multiple different races, and of aliens. You're like the reptilians, they say, are like warmongers, and they look like snakes, and the grays. Then you got like the Aryans, who are supposed to be like tall white aliens from that kind of look a lot like us. So I mean, there's tons of different species supposedly of these aliens. So the aliens that could have came here could have been so much further ahead, because if you think of how old the universe is, and it's ever expanding, that a civilization that started 2 million years ago is going to, if they are still around, are way more advanced than we are. And so you would think that them coming here would kind of be, they've kind of got all the other things out of their system as far as, war, and they're, they could be scientists or, looking to better their planet, whatever. And somebody else, it could be another alien race, and they're like, whoa, what's going on over here on this little blue marble? What is this? I mean, there's a lot of people that say that that is true, that we are in an alliance or agreement, and it's just something that you're never gonna know. I mean, like, you're never gonna know who killed Kenny. Everybody has a good idea. Every year a new idea comes out and a new theory, and that's the word theory. Just like Einstein had the theory of relativity. It wasn't, hey, this is it. No, this is my theory. So we have to prove if that theory is right or wrong. And I think that once you take the stigmata of people believing that that there's more than us in this universe, and kind of look at it, like, mainstream science won't touch it. They're like, that's fringe science. And
this is also my question, and it touches on that too, because depending on, I guess, your beliefs, it would kind of rule out aliens at some point. Like, I mean, we've touched on it very little bit, talking about a religious belief, whether you're Catholic or Christian, and that would kind of rule out aliens because he's creator of all, and then, or does it not? And there's no mentioning of it in the books, but
yeah, is there? I think there. Some people say that there is.
I was going to ask. That's pretty much that was my question. Do you guys even is it possible to believe, have like a Christian or a Catholic, faith, and then also be a believer in aliens, I guess you would say?
Well, just not too long ago, the Pope came out and said that there could be aliens, and they used it as a point of saying, see, we are not alone. Somebody created all of this. Yeah. So people try to say, that they talk about disclosure, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of pushed the disclosure forward. And so it's like in the Bible, they talk about certain things that happened, and the sound that God made when he came down to the mountain. And they talk about Ezekiel and the chariot of the gods, and its wheels within wheels, and
there's actually a book called Chariot of the Gods. That's the one book I actually started reading and I got through a few chapters there, and I'm now that you mentioned that, I should go back and look into it. But it was a really good book, and it talks about, it compares like the past and how they mention things, and how in today's world it could be seen as aliens coming down in chariots, which is what they considered any vehicle back then was a chariot.
So that author is he's a Swiss. His name is Eric von Daniken, and he was the person that kind of kicked all this out in saying, hey, this is an alien astronaut theory. And he got so much backlash, and they talked about him, and when he has interviews, he tells them, he goes, in my book, when people read it, they read it as I'm telling you, but if you look at the grammatic, punctuations, he asks questions, how did this, and so it all depends on how you look at the material. Everybody can decipher it their own way, but so I mean, he is like at the entry level of, the whole alien conspiracy and theory, and he's wrote a bunch of books. There's a lot of other people that kind of do, have written the same books, and I think it just goes to show that there are people that want to believe this, and there are people that are invested to not have you believe in that. War is a business. It's a business. The economy's booming when we're at war. So
Yeah, my thing is, if we have aliens here at Area 51, and somebody saw one in the room and all that, I always said to myself, what's going to make that alien the same size as us? Like Men in Black had been on TV, and they're talking about the galaxies on Orion's belt. What if they did come here and they're so tiny we wouldn't even know it if they got here? What's going to make them our size? I forget what the word is for that. Or
humanoid looking.
Yeah, what's going to make them
proportionate to us?
Yes, exactly. So that's what nobody's saying the kind of things that makes it sound like we have to think outside of the box, not just how humans look at it. I just, if they were to come here, I would think they would either be really small or really big. You know what I mean? So that's, if we were to go and find a microbe on another planet, we would be huge compared to them. That's how I look. That's how I look at it, as somebody, not saying that they never came, but I'm more open to way in the past they were here, or something like that, or maybe the technology we have they don't have, even though they're intelligent or more intelligent than us. Who knows? Maybe they don't have a radio waves to communicate with. They don't need it.
Yeah.
So we could be sending out radio signals to far advanced technology groups that may or may not even use that. So, but I do believe they should, no harm than, not doing it,
Yeah. So like the broadcast that we put out into space, they've said that the very first speech or whatever that was strong enough to go get into outer space and travel was Adolf Hitler's speech. So I mean, that was our "Hey, this is us" call. So maybe they're thinking, well, they're warlike, so it's like, people talk about, all the distances are so great, but then you get into start talking about wormholes and stuff like that. But I think it's more like different planes of existence. So the way I look at it is, the earth, something came from nothing, but nothing can't come from something. You know what I'm saying? They say you can never destroy energy, you can only change its path. So I imagine like the universe exploded, and as it goes, it's stretching and stretching and stretching, and maybe each plane of existence vibrates at a different frequency. Like there's been a lot of studies in frequency, and people saying that you can go from one dimension to another by finding a certain vibration, and so I mean, maybe they're here, but we can't see them. Or maybe there's times where, have you ever like thought you saw something out of the corner of your eye and you looked and there was nothing there, or you had a feeling somebody was watching you, or even deja vu. Have you ever had a feeling where like, man, I've done this before, I've been here before, but you haven't? So it's in the ancient aliens theory, they call it the Akashic Record. And basically the Akashic Record is a collection, it's a library. Everything that's been done, thought of, whatever, is deposited there. And they say Nikola Tesla, he tapped into that Akashic Record. There's been mathematicians in India that claim to have tapped into that knowledge. And that's where advancements come from, is because everything that is known. There's nothing that's unknown. So when there's places on Earth that probably nobody's ever stepped foot on, because it's big. We know more about the moon than we do about the ocean. And you look at it like the pressure in space and the pressure underwater. you would think that the pressure would be more of the same. So you could cheaply do it here and go in the water and find that, just, but it's kind of hard to say because no one's really looking at it. No one is seriously taking it seriously, and you have to take the history of other civilizations into account. So they say that the oldest unchanged or interrupted civilization history is the Aborigines in Australia, because they still are using the they're telling generation after generation, this is where we came from. We came from the star people. We were here, and and that is going from generation to generation. So they have a record of, they told me it happened like this, and my great everybody passed it down as, this is what happened. This is the story of us. Now everybody else is looking at, they're like, well, that can't. I mean, there's no way. They're not as advanced as we are. So people think that our advancement means that we are more advanced. Well, we're not, because look at our advancements in technology and kids not wanting to go outside. You got kids on Xboxes all day. So having the technology for some things hinders you. If we lost electricity like we did a couple years ago, it was crazy. People, we had no electricity for days. Imagine that happened on a global event. How many people would die from it? I mean, because you figure hospitals,
or even just the other thing I was saying is, if they were to come out and say, yes, aliens are real, there's multiple species out there. There's the snake people plus the grays plus, and go on and list it. How would the population react to that? That would turn everybody into, who knows? It's the same as telling them, such and such isn't real, or this isn't. It would turn everybody into,
So there was actually a study, and it happened during Dwight Eisenhower's administration, where they had this talk. What would happen if? And they say, well, if this happens, keep it a secret. It'll cause, mass chaos. And that statement was kind of backed up when during the War of the Worlds radio transmission, where people are like, oh my God, aliens are invading. There's people that died. There's people that thought the world was ending, and it could be. But I think now people are kind of, they say that they release the truths in movies and stuff like that. So it acclimates you to thinking that, we are not alone. And so I think right now the biggest thing would be if they say now that, hey, yeah, we've had contacts with aliens for the last 40 years. I think a lot of people would feel even worse about our government because they've been lying for so long, and they want all the information, and you're not, so I think that's what's kind of saying that. Not too long ago, I was talking to John, and we were talking about the Tic Tac video, where they showed, jet fighters following this craft that was moving at crazy speeds, and the Pentagon is the ones that released it. So the Pentagon is saying, hey, this isn't ours. We don't know what it is. So in all sense of the word, it is a UFO because it's unidentified. We don't know.
What's it called? TikTok?
Yeah, like the TikTok video, yeah.
But yeah, and another thing though is like, if they had made contact with these aliens, and it has been
That's
40
it right
years,
there. Yeah, the first one. Yep.
and it had been 40 years or whatever, I don't know if it necessarily make me more mad at them for containing it, depending on how the outcome. Because what if they said, yeah, we've had contact with them, turns out they're all right, and let's talk to them, or they can say, hey, we've talked to them for 40 years, these guys won't harm on us, and we don't know, that it depends on the outcome or how they release it. I guess how I would take that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, it's like everybody already believes that the government lies to us and it doesn't tell us the whole truth. So I don't think it would be too much to where, I mean, it's like here they show like the little can't hear no sound in there, John.
No, I turned it down because I don't know.
Yeah, you can't.
I don't want to.
And you'll get flagged too.
Yeah, so I don't want to.
Yeah, so I mean, it's showing that what it is. You're looking at the targeting system on an F-18, and it's following this this craft that is flying at thousands of miles. I think they said like Mach 5 or something like that, and making turns and dropping in altitude to where it would have just a negative effect on like a human being. So they're like, well, so I mean, that could be okay. So now they're saying, well, the government's saying that's not ours. Well, it could be one of these companies that the government farms work out to. It could be like the next generation stealth machine, the stealth bombers. And like I just watched the video earlier about it was like a TED talk where this guy had a little drone that was fully aware of itself. Had facial recognition, and he was talking about if he showed it, he let it go, and then he used facial recognition for a dummy that was on the stage. And inside this little drone was like 3 grams of C4. So he flew the drone it flew itself at this dummy and blew a hole in his head. And they're saying if you drop these in a country and you set the parameters of who you want to look for or what you want to attack, the power grid or anything like that, like, so if we already are doing stuff like that, where did that advance from? I mean,
there's that, and then the other part that you think about that kind of scares you is if that's where they're at, what are they working on? What's next? What's the one behind that? What's the thing they haven't shown us yet that they're still trying to perfect or whatever?
Yeah.
But I just feel that John, I turn to you only because I know that we've talked about the religious thing. It's just it turns into a almost like an argument between two sides of whether you're a believer or not, where when you're a person like me, you kind of see it where it's like, well, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't have any proof of they are here, and I don't have proof they're not here. So
yeah,
you said you don't feel like they would even stay, huh, John?
I don't know. I am open to it, but I don't know. I don't see why they would come here and not want to make contact of any form. And seeing how, I think even if they do meet, a small percentage of the people, on this earth, I'm sure it wouldn't be hostile, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think to come here and then introduce themselves and then open up war is a tactic. I think they would just start bombarding us from the beginning, so I just don't know. I try to follow it and I'll listen to it so much and then it just fries my brain. You know what I mean? So, but what I do like, another point of it is I was watching some space stuff on Nova with an uncle of mine, and he is a monk. And to me, that would have been kind of a, like science and religion, and he was very open to it. And he told me the more and more he's learning about the universe and how vast it is, and the more and more it just makes his faith that much stronger because he looks at it from, like you said before, like God created us and them and everything. So I don't see why they would hide it from us. I really don't. I don't. We're not that dumb. You know what I mean? It's not going to cause panic, and it will to a small degree, but I think people today would be open to it. They would want to hear it. It'd be nice, you know. My only question would be like, why is NASA only going to these planets that are within our solar system? Why ain't they going where these guys came from? Mm-hmm. Maybe they have, and we just don't know about it. I don't know. I don't see why it should be a big secret. I just don't see it. Technology-wise, I get it. Maybe they found a spaceship and everything, and and they're still advancing on the technology that they have found, but computers have been around since World War II. You know what I mean? So, and probably even a little bit longer than that. It's just, I don't think that us as civilians need to know every little thing that our country is doing for us technology-wise, because then that means the enemy got it. I believe the people in the Area 51 or in these military installations are doing the right thing, and we don't need to know about everything. You know, what if the objects they're seeing are something from us that we're just experimenting on, and not even our own military knows about it yet? You know, I think about all the stealth bomber. How long was that secret before anybody knew about it?
Same thing going back to the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
That secret was kept, and the way it was kept is because nobody had the full picture. Like in the government, in the military, things are compartmentalized to where you could be working on a tracking system and I'm working on a firing mechanism. They're for the same thing, but we're only working on one thing. Left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Yeah, but it was not a technology that was used against us as Americans. You know what I mean? So I'm more worried if a country we're up against has that technology, and they're the ones that has the actual aliens in lockdown and using all their technology to get back us, then I would worry about it. But as far as America, I'm sorry to say, I'm not worried about it.
And it makes sense what Erik was saying too, because that's, you know, even Bob Lazar was saying he was the only reason he was brought into Area 51 or what it was because he was to reverse engineer the propulsion unit. The propulsion unit was, and that's it. That's all he was. He wasn't even to find out what the air looked like on the device. He wasn't there to see. He knew what the cockpit looked like, but he wasn't there to. He literally just worked on the propulsion device of the spacecraft, according to him, and he knew nothing about anything else on the spacecraft. He was not to know about anything else. He wasn't to even go in the other rooms where they were working on those. So it definitely makes sense that they separated so much that you're only working on one piece. That's it. That's all you'll know about too.
It isn't until you see the end product that you realize, we were working on all this stuff together.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
It is pretty interesting stuff. I watch a lot of World War II stuff, and I follow that a lot. And I see the stuff that they were working on, different hovercrafts and everything like that, to see where we got to today. Today, you can see it. You can see the progress. Once they learn something, then it just snowballs and it gets bigger and bigger and better.
In technology, the only thing that has not advanced is our propulsion system. We are still taking something, pushing it out of the back end to have us go. So
it's the force one reaction creates the equal opposite reactions. That's the same. Our rockets are just as primitive as they've ever been. We don't use there's nothing different in our rockets that propel it's a very primitive way of doing it. I agree. But
they do have like trains that are working on magnetism,
levels,
and doing stuff like that. So you know, it's exciting to see what's going on. But as far as that's where I draw the line. You know, like I said, I'm open to it. if you showed me an alien today and said, "Hey, he's here," and
So,
I believe, wow, but
so the only other avenue I have that, I'm just bringing all the different avenues to the table. I'm not bringing anything other than that. The only one we haven't touched on is that it's a future version of ourselves that are time traveling back in time. Have you heard that one?
Yeah, so there's a video of they are talking to this alien, and he says that he's from our future. They have came back to now because of a war that pretty much forced all life underground, and then that's how they advanced, and they are coming back to now to get tissues and organs and stuff like that, so they can try to fix themselves. That's something that they say, that hey, the aliens have always been here. They're us from the future, and it goes from there. So it's like it's an interesting video, because if they faked it, it's hell of a fake. And they talk about dogma and what caused us to destroy the planet. And it's not a long video, but it's crazy to hear and see. And if you look at it like, wow, that Steven Spielberg did a good job, then that's what you're going to see. But
yeah. And that was just one of the other avenues I remember. Like I said, we didn't research any of this, and we didn't, just kind of off the top of the head. I remember there was a couple different avenues. The gold, I remember, was one of them. The missing link was the other, and then the future time traveler was the other one I know I wanted to touch base on. And that's, I'm not saying I believe that or anything, but it's just one of those other theories or one of those other beliefs.
So we were talking about time travel, and where were you going with that? I had to, for people out there, I had to stop the video and start it over again.
I was just mentioning how there's a theory that one of the alien theories. So there's multiple theories in aliens with the alien topic, but one of them is the fact that it's our future self. So it's one race, almost one gender type thing, where over the years our heads have grown so massively. I don't even think that's a real word, to be honest with you, but they've just grown so much that it would make sense that our heads would be that big in the future if they continue to grow. And there's just a lot, like you said, they get forced underground, so your eyes become bigger to be able to see. And there's just a lot of things in that theory that I just thought I would ask Erik and see what he thought of that theory.
Yeah, I mean, there is, like Einstein is the first to kind of discuss, the possibility of time travel. And the theory is, if you, in order to travel in time, you'd have to be able to move at incredible speed. So let's just say me and you are racing to the park, and I'm running 10 times as fast as you. By the time you start the race, I'm finishing it, and you don't see that. So that's kind of what the theory of time travel is it has to do with speed or something like that. So it's like they say, like, if when you're an astronaut and you are up in the space and you're traveling at X amount of time, that actually when you come back, you're going to be younger. And it's just, it goes everywhere with the whole time travel topic. It can get really crazy, especially when you start bringing in wormholes and things like that. And
pretty cool.
Because if once we got into that, or we're able to use doorways to dimensions or anything like that, and then I can believe it. Once again, I'm to the point where I'm just like, it's too much for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like to think back, like, hey, I would go back in time and reinvest or invest into Microsoft before they got
Mhm.
big, you know. So it's just a, you know, that's just another thing that ends up, it just locks me up once I start hearing it, because I hear more and more of the information, and
So
I get lost.
yeah. So if I had to put a final stamp on it, in my opinion, just my opinion, that's all it is. I could see if I had to lean one way, it would be the nuclear side, where that reaction or that force that gets thrown out into space is enough to get attention of someone.
Mhm.
I could see that being, to me, the most likely example of what happened. People going, man, what was that? That wasn't normal. Because even if you look at some testing of bombs above the Earth out of satellites, I mean, that even the
Mhm.
basic ones can cause a big disturbance in the area above it. Uh, so I could see something nuclear saying to the aliens or the other
Mhm.
intelligent life, "Hey, come look at this. We're making noise over here."
Yeah.
And that's the way I heard it as far as being Earth. We're a very, very loud, very noisy, bright planet. So eventually, what we've been doing, it's gonna get out there. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
it's like you said, they're probably. I don't think the first broadcast of Hitler has hit any solar system yet, but it will. You know
It's
what I
still
mean?
going.
As far as the waves are moving,
Mhm.
there's a movie like that where they show where they're coming to the planet, and as they're coming, you can hear the TV and the television and the radio stations coming more and more into time. I forgot which
Mhm.
one it was. You remember which one?
Howard the Duck.
No, I think, yeah, like I think Flight of the Navigator had a scene kind of like that where, you start hearing the music and yeah.
Yeah, as they're getting closer to Earth, you're getting closer and closer to modern times. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm open to it, and I'd like to see. I hope if we do make contact and they do come around, it's in my lifetime. But if not, we'll see.
Yeah, it is.
We'll see.
Yep.
I think we're going to find life in our solar system before that happens. So I think there's a good possibility of around Saturn. Is it one of the moons
Yeah,
of Saturn?
Europa. Yeah, it's a
Europa.
moon. Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm hoping I'm around to see that sort of stuff. When they're getting on that moon, and I think there's another place, and I forget where it's at, but I think there's a good chance. But I believe that one moon, Europa, is the one that they have the most likely in, or the possibility of life being
Mhm.
there. So I'd like to see what happens with that. You know,
Well, I'm with you. Same. I'm open minded, and I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm not saying I do believe it. I'm saying when I see it, I'll have better understanding. I'll know when I know.
Yeah.
so anything else, Eric, you got going on? You following anything, or what was the name of that video that you were saying we were talking about with? It had to do with time travel.
There's a bunch of different videos. It's
I was going to bring it up, but I can't remember now. I'll know what we're talking about once I
Mhm.
go to edit this. I'll go, oh, that's what I was going to ask them. But
Are you talking about the video about the alien that just
yes,
discuss it? Yeah. So
yes.
I don't know the name of it. I've seen it a few different times on TikTok or YouTube. So it's out there. It's just alien talks about being from our future.
Okay,
It's kind of a good way to search it out.
I'd have to check that out and get it. But like I said, that's as far as I'm into sci-fi movies. Don't get me wrong, I love them. And if there's a good, my wife yells at me about watching stuff about planets. She's like, "Did you watch that already?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I love that stuff, So
Yeah.
I love to see what's going on. I'm excited to see what they're going to do about Mars, but I know that's a tough mission if we do get that together. I know I wouldn't want to be one of the guys, go on a trip out there
Yeah.
and see if it happens. But I like when they send the probes out, and like the one that flew past Pluto, and they learned a lot about Pluto that they didn't know, So I'm into all of that, And I was just watching something that actually is really close to the sun now, and it was studying the sun, a satellite we sent out to it. So that was pretty cool. But that's as far as it goes for me. I don't know. The only aliens I know are the ones that are coming over the border. We can't even deal with them. Well, I thank you for coming on. There's another group, a guy that we work with. I have to talk to you off camera, but I believe him and his crew, they do this sort of stuff. So I'd like to see if maybe we can do a collaboration. I talked to him. It's just he works opposite of what I do, so it would be hard. It would have to be something that we either take vacation for to line it up with his crew. But I've been
or around a holiday or something.
Yeah, I've been listening to his stuff, and they talk about the same things, and they're like you, Eric. They get really, 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 really in depth, and but the conspiracy, sometimes it's not a conspiracy in my book, and that's just my opinion. I'm just like, that's going way out of your way to make something out of nothing. It might be nothing, but the conspiracies keep things alive, and it forces people to eventually say the truth. And look what the United States did. What, in June, was it, or May or June? And they released 200 videos of UFOs, and they said 199 of them couldn't be explained. So that's kind of weird that they did that. Like, why now?
I'm with you on that though, where it's just because it can't be explained, it doesn't mean that and just because you call something a UFO, just is literally what it stands for. Everybody, the second you say UFO, they immediately think alien, when if they're just literally saying it's an object that we don't know what it is. They're not saying anything about aliens. They're not saying it. They're saying, yeah, there's something flying and we don't know what it is. So,
but if they've been here and it turns out our government's been hiding them, I wouldn't doubt that either.
Okay, let me know. Let me know.
Well, Eric, I appreciate it very much. Love having you on, and we'll have you on anytime. Like I said, we come up with this subject, and trying to come up with content, and we are taking this to every 2 weeks. So Tom and I just, what the problem is? Everybody's busy. Everybody's busy, and work, or family, and it's tough. But I appreciate you taking the time out and coming back on again and talking with us. But looks like you're becoming a regular here. I might have to push Tom out.
Our first repeat. Well, thanks.
I've been called a repeat offender before, so
you definitely look like one. No,
well, we appreciate it, and if you have any questions or comments, please comment below. Just like the last video, people were commenting left and right, and we appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But thank you very much, Eric, and Tom. Thanks for coming back on, and talk to you guys later, and have a good one.
All right, bye.